For this project, I chose to evaluate Rocket League's usability and accessibility principles. So Rocket League is basically a video game which combines the rules of soccer and the physical mechanics of a vehicle. So instead of controlling human-like players, you are controlling a vehicle that can jump, boost, and fly. So we're going to be going over 2 usability principles and 2 accessibility principles, and then a summary at the end. So the first usability principle is offering informative feedback. And a quote from Shneiderman says that for every user action, there should be a interface feedback. So for example, within the main menu, you have different options to play, click the item shop, garage, and depending on which button you click, it'll show you different options so you know which other menu you are in. And also there is audio settings for these buttons. So as you hover over these buttons or when you click them, it'll give you feedback with an audio cue. So here we are in the main interface of Rocket League, which is what you see when you launch the application. And a good way that Rocket League offers informative feedback is when you hover over these menu options, it'll play a sound. And when you actually click on it, it plays a different sound to let you know that it's actually clicked. Not only that, but there's also audio cues for when your car is just driving. It'll play engine noises, for example. And also for jumping, when you right click or double jumping. So next is preventing errors. And Shneiderman also says that we should design interfaces so that users cannot make serious mistakes. And one example from the game is when you are queued for a game, you cannot join any other game modes and they are all locked. So which kind of follows the idea of graying out certain items that are not applicable. And then another example is for in-game purchases. So since you can trade real money for in-game credits, you want to double check that the user actually wants to go through with their purchase instead of accidentally clicking a purchase and having your money spent, which would be a horrible user experience. Here we are in game again. So if we try to join a casual twos game and then we try to back out and join another game, we are prevented from doing that. So we are not in like several matches at once. Here are the different options to make a purchase for in-game credits. So say we accidentally clicked on this, there's another pop-up window that says, are you sure you want to continue? To make sure that we don't accidentally spend our money. So next is our first accessibility principle, which is seeking universal usability. And Shneiderman says to recognize the needs of diverse users. So for example, since there are a lot of colors in this game, there are certain people that are colorblind. So there's an option for a colorblind mode that you can enable or disable. There are 2 images on the slides with the before and after enabling the mode. And it's kind of hard to tell, but if you look at the orange and blue backlighting against the wall, after it's enabled, the blue lighting is a bit dimmer and the orange is more accentuated, which kind of follows the principle from WCAG 2.1, which says that color contrast ratios should be at least 3:1. So after enabling this mode, it could drastically affect those ratios to help accentuate outlines for colorblind users. And second accessibility principle is reducing short-term memory load. And since humans have a limited capacity for processing in their short-term memory, which is a paraphrase from Shneiderman as well, Rocket League incorporates different graphics and features within their game to help with that. So the first example that I really like is their boost gauge. So boost is an important part of the game. It's always being used and collected, so it is extremely hard to keep track of how much boost you have left. You don't have to worry about, oh, I collected this much boost and I just used this much. So Rocket League implements a boost gauge to constantly let you know how much you have left in the tank, basically. And another feature is the countdown timer with the scoreboard. So players don't have to remember what their score is versus what their opponent's score is. It's always stuck at the top of each player's screen. And lastly, teams are color-coded. So instead of memorizing which names belong to which team, with a quick glance, you can just tell which players are your opponents, which ones are your teammates. And it's usually by blue or orange. Also, another small detail on the scoreboard, it is also color-coded, so it further reduces the short-term memory load, and it makes it easy for players to check on the status of the game. Another feature that I really like that I didn't mention in the slides is boost usage. So whenever you hold down left click, it'll use boost, give you a visual cue with boost coming out of the car, and audio cue. And also we have that scoreboard that I mentioned at the top with the timer. to let you know what the score is and how much time there is left within the game. So if we go ahead and score another goal, it should update on the scoreboard for blue. So yeah, in summary, I think Rocket League does an excellent job with their UI UX design. They make sure to incorporate usability and accessibility principles for inclusiveness, and overall just makes the game more enjoyable and seamless. For example, they have great menu navigation with feedback. They have good visual audio cues. There's a colorblind mode. There's error prevention, and they reduce the cognitive load for users. So overall, I think Psyonix does a good job with their design to ensure that they cover a wide audience of all skill levels.